On August 19th, 2026, one solo developer launched a website so ridiculously simple, it honestly looked like a joke. But within days, it had attracted more than 1 million visitors. I mean, the traffic was so insane, it completely broke its own analytics tracker. The guy even turned down a $100,000 acquisition offer. And then something even crazier happened. Hundreds of founders saw this tiny one-page site and immediately decided they could build the exact same thing. And this right here is what drove them into an absolute frenzy, the giant, sparkly lure. Over 120 grand in reported revenue, all generated in less than a week. Look, if you're a developer sitting at home with a code editor and an empty Stripe account, seeing a single input field print 6 figures, that is literally like blood in the water. To them, it was the ultimate validation of the indie hacker dream.
But I want to hit you with a brutal twist right up front. Take a look at this adorably tiny number, $18.90. According to a directory that tracked all these copycats, that was the median revenue of a clone. Let me just repeat that. Hundreds of founders rushed to copy a $120,000 idea, and half of them made less than 19 bucks.
Okay, let's dive into this, because this isn't just a story about a clever website. This is an investigation into one of the most dangerous psychological traps in business. Think about it. Why did one ridiculously simple website absolutely explode, while hundreds of almost identical websites appeared to make absolutely nothing?
Section 1. The $100,000 joke.
So, to really understand all those failing copycats, we first have to understand the original. Let's look at exactly what this impossibly simple yet wildly lucrative product actually was. The site was called outbid.lol, built by a developer in Germany named Jonathan Wilke. And the core mechanic? It's brutally simple. Pay to rank. There's no AI under the hood. There's no login screen. There isn't even a complex sorting algorithm. A company just submits a link and bids some money, starting at a cute $5. Whatever you bid totally determines your rank on the public leaderboard. If you pay more than the guy above you, boom, you take his spot. That's literally it.
And the sheer velocity of this launch was just absurd. Hour 0, it goes live. By hour 24, the traffic is so heavy it completely breaks his analytics provider. By hour 48, the board had taken over 120 grand in cumulative bids. That number 1 spot, which remember, started at just $5, it escalated to a staggering $13,005 just to hold it. The rapidly escalating price literally became the main spectacle.
Which brings us to Section 2, the psychology of bidding.
But why on earth did companies pay that much for a single link? Let's shift our focus away from the website's code and look at the human behavior that actually powered this crazy revenue engine. What Outbid created was a reflexive loop. First, attention drops in because the site is going viral on social media. Because there are suddenly so many eyeballs on it, the expected value of holding that number 1 position completely skyrockets. So founders bid up the price to get there. That massive, ridiculous bid creates public proof. It's shocking, right? It's newsworthy, and that draws even more attention back to the site. The board brilliantly monetized both the entry fee and the rivalry itself.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core mechanic. As Jonathan Wilke himself said, there is no algorithm to game. It all rests on how badly a company wants to be first. He hit the nail on the head. It taps straight into pure ego and that deeply human fear of being knocked off the top spot in front of a live audience of 1 million people.
Section 3. The Clone Wars began.
Of course, the moment that massive revenue screenshot hit social media, the tech community absolutely exploded. Welcome to the Clone Wars. And the data on this is super fascinating. The copying didn't happen in the very first hour. It actually took about 12.7 hours for the very first clone domain to be registered. But by hour 24, there were 5 domains. By hour 38, it peaked with 20 new domains being registered in a single hour. Guys, that's 1 every 3 minutes. By the weekend, the tech timeline had become this weird hall of mirrors where literally every other post was a new .lol leaderboard.
Trackers eventually indexed an incredible 415 pay-to-rank boards. Just look at the sheer volume here, and the bizarre niches they tried to fill. You had 230 of them just straight up copying the original websites and products idea. But others, they tried to rank X accounts, AI agents, crypto tokens, Flappy Bird scores, you name it, someone built a board for it. It was a massive decentralized gold rush.
Section 4. Why the copies failed.
But here is where we need to ruthlessly puncture the hype of all those copycats. Let's look at the hard, undeniable data from those 415 cloned boards. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the total domination of the original site. Out of the roughly $188,000 spent across the entire format,
Outbid.lol captured 67% of it by itself. The top 10 clones captured 22%. And those remaining 283 measurable clones, they were left fighting over a tiny, pathetic 11% sliver of the pie. The data completely proves that just having the code was entirely useless without the timing. Early timing was literally the whole game. The earliest quarter of clones made around $6,700 combined. The last quarter, barely $1,300. To put that into perspective, 107 clones made under $10, and 27 of them made absolutely nothing. Zero. Just crickets.
Section 5. The Founder Delusion.
This brings us to the core business lesson of this whole explainer. It's a psychological phenomenon we see time and time again in the startup world. I call it the founder delusion. Let's deconstruct the trap these hundreds of smart developers fell right into. Think of it like a giant iceberg. What the copycat founders saw was just the tip above the water. A simple input field, a public leaderboard, and a massive revenue counter. It looked incredibly easy to code. But what they didn't see was the massive, heavy block of ice underwater. They missed the original novelty of the joke, the absolute first-mover advantage, the insane social momentum, and critically, the trust the audience had in the original creator's numbers.
So the crucial point is that a successful product is almost never just its code. The clones entirely miss the durable, structural mechanics of Outbid's success. Outbid actually had that reflexive attention loop firing on all cylinders. It had the real audience of buyers, tech founders desperate to show off. It had transparent rules, server-side math to prevent cheating, and the cultural relevance of being the very first to make the joke. When a clone launched just 30 hours later, guys, the joke was already stale.
Honestly, the only clones that even had a fighting chance were the ones that understood they couldn't just copy-paste the code. They had to totally change the fundamental object being ranked. The developer of Instabid, which was a clone that ranked Instagram egos instead of SaaS wallets, put it perfectly. He said paste is theft of the story. A new dataset is an argument. If you just paste someone else's code, you have zero story of your own. Which leaves us with a highly uncomfortable question for anyone building a business today. If you were scrolling your feed on August 19th and saw outbid.lol suddenly explode, would you have recognized those invisible mechanics driving its success, or would you have rushed to your keyboard, suffering from the founder delusion, and spent the next 48 hours furiously building a clone that made exactly $18? Think about that the next time you see an overnight viral success. Until next time, remember to keep looking beneath the surface.